Good evening, everybody. It's 9:30 on the West. I did Weast again. I did
Yeah,
Weast
you
again.
just want to. You just want to
I
do it.
want. I wanna. I wanna live on the West Coast. Anyway,
Yeah. That's
it's
okay though. Yeah.
it's 9:30 on the East Coast, 6:30 on the West Coast on a Monday night. That must mean it's time for a weekly Calamity Jane live stream. James, how are you doing on this
I'm doing
brisk
just
late
great.
fall evening?
I'm doing terrific. East
Lovely.
Coast, West Coast, West Coast,
West
doesn't
Coast.
matter.
It's all there. It's all there.
Yeah.
Must be cooling off
Yeah.
a little bit in LA. You've got a hoodie on tonight, and it's actually like mostly
Yeah.
zipped up and.
Yeah, it's just fun. It's more or less just a fashion statement because everybody
Oh.
knows that I'm a fashion icon,
Yeah.
so
Oh, well,
it's
yeah.
time to
Yeah.
represent, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
No, I have a friend who is just like, um, he looks for any excuse to wear a hoodie. I mean, any excuse. Like, it could be
Hmm.
100 degrees out. He could
Oh
be
man.
walking around in like underwear and flip flops, but he'll still have a hoodie on, right? It's hilarious. It's so funny. And I get it though. I love one of the reasons why I love fall and winter so much is I get to wear
Yeah.
jackets and hats
Yeah.
more, right? And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love jackets and hats, right? And long sleeve
Hmm.
shirts and things of that nature. I don't like shorts. I don't like flip flops. So when things start
Really?
getting
Oh.
when things start getting cooler and I get to put on jeans comfortably again. I get to wear long sleeve shirts again. I get to bust my cool jackets out again. Like, I love it. So I'm glad it's finally starting to cool down on this side. I'm not as big on hoodies as my friend is, but
Hmm.
I do love a good jacket and a good hat.
I'm trying to think, because I mean, I wear hoodies about 50% of the time. Like I have really light jacket hoodies,
Yeah.
and I'll wear them sometimes. This is a typical hoodie that I've got on today, but yeah, I do like to wear them myself. I kind of see what your friends. There's a kind of a security blanket kind of feel to
Sure.
them,
No,
or a
I get it.
comfort
I get it.
comfort blanket type of thing to them. I like. Yeah, so I totally am. I'm with him
Yeah.
in his fashion choice
I do love.
statements.
This is a no transition here, but well, I mean, I guess it's kind of a transition. We've gotten really good at our pre-show banter, right? Like, we're Conan and Andy, and I won't specify who's who.
So,
We just, it's a
I like
great, it's a
both of
great,
them. So
yeah. So I know I'm happy with either one. Um,
yeah.
just sort of, pre-show banter, figuring it out, loosening everybody up, getting ready for a good stream. Um,
Yeah, I
anyway.
guess so. I never really thought about that much. But yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, I don't know. I just figured we just known each other a long time. We're friends, so it's just sort of it's no different than anytime I talk to you anyway, for the most part,
Fair
So
enough. Fair enough.
it feels just, and maybe that's what it is. Like Conan and Andy are really good friends too, right? I mean,
Well,
off
I think they
off camera.
are. I mean, I think that they're pretty close now. I mean, when the show started, they auditioned him. Like Conan didn't know
Oh,
Andy at all.
I
And
didn't know. Oh, I
if
didn't
I
know that.
remember correctly, though, when he met, or I think someone introduced them,
Mm-hmm.
and when he met him, he's like, "Yeah, this is the guy," right? I mean, they had an instant chemistry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do think that they're still friends.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I'm aware, there was never any bad blood between them. I know that happens from time to time, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that they actually do have a pretty strong relationship in general. So yeah, but right, just a natural banter of friends that just happens to conveniently line up with the intro to a podcast. By the way, or a
Yeah.
podcast, I don't even know if that's really what this is, but
Whatever.
whatever. Speaking of which, we usually do a thing on this stream where you draw. So I don't know. Are we?
Oh, I was like, oh, what?
Yeah.
We
Oh,
did
yeah.
something.
You
That's
were
cool.
really excited. You couldn't wait.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, drawing.
drawing.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
animating. Fine.
All right. So, okay,
What
fine.
are
I'll go
we?
to share
What are you
screen
working on
mode.
tonight? Yeah.
Um, you know, I didn't get a chance to work on what I wanted to with this set of animation, so I want to keep working on this. I was gonna try to get this done off camera, but I'll keep working on this. I want to add a couple more drawings for
Mhm.
this to kind of smooth it out a little bit.
Mhm.
So it might be it might feel redundant a little bit compared to last week, but you know what? Once in a great while, I get to, I'm going to be redundant about some stuff. That's what we animators do. We get
Mhm.
really OCD
Mhm.
about stuff. So in this case, like this pose here, like with where she's looking, and then it goes to here, and then I want to try to get just a couple more in betweens to help kind of smooth this out a little bit.
Okay.
Because right here, if you look here, like there's a little bit of a hitch.
A bit of a hitch. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree.
Hmm.
I don't
And I
think
don't
that's
want I
nitpicking
don't
either. That actually kind of almost looks like one of those there's cuts, right? It almost looks like a jump cut almost.
Yeah. So I want to just I want to add one or two more drawings there. The rest of it's feeling pretty healthy, but anyways, yeah. So stick or hitch or what do you want to call it? I want to kind of fix that tonight, and let's see if I'm successful as we hang out and talk.
Yeah, stitch was the word I was looking for, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And when they cut frames out, and then there's like a clear stitch between them. And
yeah.
And it looks like they just jump just a little bit.
Yeah.
I say that because like I was watching, I was working today, and I don't know what the occasion was, but I saw clips of Star Wars: A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting how rudimentary, like how much they were just still figuring things out. In the scene, the first time Luke turns on his lightsaber, there's two really interesting things that George Lucas never really fixed in any of his revisions of it. When Luke turns his lightsaber on for the first time, there's what appears to be this really like subtle stitch where the frame changes just a little bit. Like they cut, right, and said, okay, Hamill, hold this position. We're going to swap out your lightsaber with the one with the reference line so we can, in post add the beam. And so it's like this really weird, he presses the button, and not only does the lightsaber beam not come out, it just pops on, but you've got that weird hitch or stitch moment, and then the beam is white, which is so weird. Now, obviously, they came back to that in the modern movies, where they gave Rey a white lightsaber, but obviously Luke's lightsaber was always supposed to be blue, and so Anakin's lightsaber was blue that Luke inherited. It's just funny because it's such for me, it's such an iconic part of, it's so familiar. I mean, I've seen, A New Hope so many times at this point, you can just basically sit there and quote every line. I'm not the only person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, it's interesting because you see that, and it is such what's the word I'm even looking for? It's the limitation of the editing tools in 1977, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this day and age, especially given Lucas's predilection to go back and revise his movies, which, take it or leave it, I mean, I'm not making a judgment here, but he does. And he never changed that. And I wonder if he just kind of liked the imperfection of it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, right when you started talking about this, I thought that's really cool that he left some organic human element to it where it's not too perfect, especially when you look at the latter ones with everything being perfect CG and everything.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually kind of cool that there's some dust and there's some actual human element to that, a little bit of roughness to it. I think that's really cool. It adds a little bit more authenticity to it, I feel. And it shows a little bit of a struggle too. Like at that time when they were making that, right? The budget was low. They were scrambling to just try to get it done. Like all that stuff is kind of neat to see, I think.
No, I agree.
In general. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's and like Star Wars is just a classic example of homebrew filmmaking, right?
Yep.
It's there's literally to make the land speeder look like it was hovering, they rubbed Vaseline on the lens.
Yeah.
Where it was filming, right? So or maybe it was on the undeveloped print. I don't remember, but anyway, they actually used Vaseline to obscure the tires on the land speeder, and then in the scene where the Tusken Raider is like standing over Luke after knocking him down, and he's kind of raising his arms up and down. Yeah. They had run out of film. Yeah, and so they only had it. Yeah, and all they had was him doing this. And so in the when they were editing, they actually like reversed it back and back. To make it look like he was like throwing his arms up and down.
Even in my younger years, I could tell that they did that, and I just didn't mind that at all because the sound was there. And it was awesome.
Yeah.
But that's exactly a great example of like what I loved about the New Hope was just all this little kind of rough stuff like that, where they just wanted to get together and they still tell the story, and it's very effective. It's such a great movie.
It is.
And
go ahead.
And also just add more to it, like if you Like, yeah, showing my age. We already know we're all old men here. Watching
Uh,
those VHS copies, you watch it over and over again. You can see the strings on the Millennium Falcon and stuff against the sky backdrop and stuff. And then when they went back in the late '90s and they cleaned up everything, digitized everything, I was so bummed because they cleaned all that stuff up.
yeah.
I was like, oh, why? You know?
Yeah, some of the stuff I liked that they cleaned up. Like one of the things that Lucas cleaned up in Jedi was late in the movie when Luke is talking to Palpatine and he's on his throne. Like it's this close up of Palpatine, and I guess like when they filmed it, I guess part of the costume wasn't working under his hood. And all I can imagine is that you could see past the makeup, and you could like see Ian McDermott's ear or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. And so there's this really obvious like black, like almost like someone took a Sharpie and just like drew a bubble over this one very specific part of his hood, and it's not the same color black as the hood or anything else, so it really stands out, and that always bothered me for some reason.
And I don't even know. Now I kind of want to see that and see what you're talking about there.
Yeah. Like I wonder if it's like if you just Google Emperor Palpatine black smudge, and see how well the internet gets my frame of mind.
It might. I think there's a good shot, good chance of that happening. Actually.
Yeah. Let's see here.
If not, I'll stop my share and we can see your screen then.
I'm getting action figures mostly, but. No, the internet, alas, is not with me on this one. All I'm getting is action figures. That's like nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's a bummer, but.
Yeah. But anyway, it is true. It's a thing, and in '97 they went back and fixed it so that it was the same color as everything else. And that one I always liked. For whatever reason, that was always distracting to me. And I think it was because it wasn't like just a flash. It wasn't just like an instant or a moment, like with Luke turning on the lightsaber for the first time. Mm-hmm. This is something that was always there, and it was clearly a cover-up, and it would keep cutting back to Palpatine over and over again, and it just became one of those, what's the word I'm looking for? Sore thumbs, or I think it's like, something like that. What's the cliche I'm looking for? It stood out like a sore thumb.
It's like a sore thumb. Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. And this is, I'm sorry, which one was this?
This is Jedi. This was Jedi. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Palpatine's not in New Hope, right? Even when they revised it.
No, he's only in Jedi, as far as I'm aware. Truly, like in '97, they went back and they added Ian McDermott as a hologram. Yeah, he's a hologram in Empire, but like he's not actually like a whole character.
Yeah.
And that was another change that I did like, actually, replacing the original version of the Emperor and Empire with they went and had Ian McDermott do all of the lines again, and they replaced the original version of the Emperor with Ian McDermott, and I like that, honestly.
I don't remember what they like. I remember Empire Strikes Back was like there was very little that they changed. They gave Boba Fett like an Australian accent, I think, right? They gave him
Tamora Morrison's accent.
Yeah.
Oh no! That they didn't do that until the Blu-ray releases.
Oh, is that what they
did? Because they obviously like they didn't start filming. I mean, Phantom Menace didn't come out until '99, and Attack of the Clones was 2002, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, so like Tamora Morrison hadn't even been cast as Jango Fett yet, so they didn't go back and replace Boba Fett's voice until the Blu-ray release. Yeah. Okay. Which I could take or leave. I loved the original voice.
Yeah, me too. But that's again our generational type of thing. We grew up with that version of the actor. He was a British actor, I believe.
He was, I believe so.
Yeah.
But where was I going with this? Oh, and you're right. They changed very, very little in Empire, actually.
Yeah.
And another change in Empire that I really did love was they made Cloud City feel like Cloud City, right? In the original cut, all of the windows are just whited out, right? Because they couldn't, they didn't know how to do exteriors on a floating city, right? So you have a few, matte shots, and you have obviously they do miniatures and things of that nature. But when
Mm-hmm.
the characters are walking around the set, you can't really see out of any of the windows. But if you look at Christopher McQuarrie's, or not Christopher McQuarrie, Ralph McQuarrie's concept art. Christopher McQuarrie is Tom Cruise's writer director guy. If you look at Ralph McQuarrie's concept art for it, all the windows are supposed to be these big, massive floor-to-ceiling windows and these, giant cathedral-like rooms, and you could just see out over Cloud City everywhere, right? And they just didn't have the technology to pull it off, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Lucas went back in '97, they went in and removed all just the white windows and replaced them with actual vistas, using CG, of course, actual vistas of Cloud City behind it. And it was a subtle effect, but it actually worked really, really well. They did a lot of CG establishing shots of Cloud City, which I could take or leave, but the putting the city in the background behind the windows, I thought was a really nice touch.
How did you say? I should watch it again just to see that again. But yeah, there's no way to look at the original any of those anymore, right? You can't really.
I don't think Disney. I think Disney has them on Disney Plus. I think they have the original cuts on Disney Plus now. I believe so. Cool. I believe so. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I'd like to watch them original and then maybe watch them just to nerd out again and watch them again revised. Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was we went from we love guerrilla or bootstrap filmmaking to I really like the CG in this. I think
that's our walking hypocrisy.
Oh yeah, no. Tonight
we sometimes employ.
At least we know what the title of tonight's stream is.
Walking hypocrisy.
Walking hypocrisy. Yeah. I mean, I think I don't mind CG when used in intelligent ways that make a movie better, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. They don't rely on it too much to carry it. And this is your biggest critique with Marvel movies because that's all they are, right? But
yeah, they're basically just cartoons at this point, which is fine. Yeah. It's just not what I'm looking for, right? I mean, people seem to love it, otherwise they wouldn't keep doing it. But it's just not. I think we talked about this last week. It sort of peaked with Winter Soldier. It was just the perfect blend of doing things practically while also, using CG for just the finer details, right? And it got a little ridiculous at the end, as all Marvel movies do, with the CG, helicarriers crashing into the ground and everything. But it was still, I thought, effective. It wasn't so. It wasn't so in the realm of kind of science-y fiction-y, but not even just like science fantasy, right? I don't know. The world just stopped feeling grounded. I mean, that was what I liked about the first Iron Man and Avengers and Winter Soldier is, despite the fact that it was superheroes, the world still felt grounded. It still felt relatable. And the world that the Marvel movies exist in now are so unbelievably unrelatable to me that I sort of lost the thread there,
And you say that Winter Soldier is what did it?
Winter Soldier was the peak. That was that was at its best, and then moving on from there, the movies just kept getting a little bit more and more unbelievable until now we're at I haven't seen Wakanda Forever, so I can't make any statement on that. But I mean, Black Panther was just so, to me, unbelievable. I mean, it was just like, it was just a bridge too far that there was this secret country underneath a holographic dome that had existed for God knows how many years, and it was just like, okay, wait, what? Like it just got too much for me, I guess. And it's a personal thing. It's not a commentary on the movie, right? It was just like that was the jump the shark moment for me. Well, it wasn't really, but that was one of the jump the shark moments for me.
I mean, the nature of comic books is there's so many absurd things that happen in comic book movies, right? I mean, I wonder why that's the one that. I mean, Wakanda is. I mean, it's an actual place in Marvel comics. They've already fleshed it out, and it's really technologically superior to everywhere else in the world for the most part. So they've just followed canon pretty much. For that, but that was. But so it's kind of interesting that you think that in your mind that's where it went too far because all they're doing is following the canon, right? I
Right.
mean, so I wonder why that is that
Well, I mean,
that one.
I pick out that moment, but that's not the only one, right?
Mm,
I mean,
mm-hmm,
it started getting a little crazy, honestly, with Age of Ultron,
mm-hmm,
when Ultron raises the entire country of Sokovia or whatever it was called off the ground.
mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
then they reined it back in with Winter Soldier, and even Civil War to a lesser extent. But and I sort of lost the order on a lot of these things. But I mean, the Thor movies were pretty guilty of it. But the difference, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
for me was, I don't know. It's I'm saying it out loud, and I'm sort of figuring this out as we're
Mm-hmm.
talking, right? So
Sure.
I'm gonna go back, and I'm gonna be a hypocrite because I'm kind of figuring out the way I'm feeling about it as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it, like I can watch Star Wars and be totally engaged and not be taken out of the experience. And I think part of it is because the whole thing is fantastic. None of it is grounded, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But because the Marvel movies started on an Earth not too dissimilar to ours, like it's sort of like Earth the day after tomorrow, right?
Are you referring to Iron Man, the first
Yeah,
Iron Man?
yeah, the first
Okay.
Iron Man,
Uh-huh.
and now, I mean, admittedly, the first Iron Man came out in 2008,
Something
and
like that. Yeah.
yeah, so it's been what, something like 16 years about there,
Mm-hmm.
or 12 years, something like that. Um, 14 years, I think. Anyway, whatever. I'm bad at math. We've gone from in 14 years. We've gone from it. Okay, Iron Man is a superhero, of course, but we went from that kind of grounded space to Endgame, which
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
just like it's lost all claim to any sort of believability, right? And you do the
Yeah.
5 year snap, and it's just the expectations of the world, or the expectations of the audience of the world that the world puts on the audience has just gotten too big for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, wait. You just snapped and half of the universe disappeared,
Uh-huh.
right? And now you snap and everybody's back, and it's just like it became too much for me, right? If you snapped and brought back 4 billion people, give or take,
Uh-huh.
it would collapse the infrastructure of humanity. If
Sure.
all of a sudden 4 billion people just showed up, right? They spent
Mm-hmm.
5 years adjusting to half the population, and rebuilding economies, rebuilding infrastructure, becoming accustomed to a society that has suddenly been cut in half, and now all of these people are just suddenly back, and they barely even pay lip service to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in Endgame, and I know we're just supposed to enjoy the spectacle of it, but they snap and everybody's back, and then all of a sudden they've somehow managed to mobilize this massive army of superheroes to fight Thanos in a
Mm-hmm.
matter of what, hours? They've been gone for 5 years and they don't have any questions. And that it just got too big. It got too big.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's the same problem I have with comic books these days. Is the scope of things has gotten so completely out of whack that it's hard for me to be interested in any of it anymore. The stakes are so ridiculous. They're not high. They're just ridiculous
Mm-hmm.
that I can't get into it anymore.
I can kind of see some. I mean, I see where you're kind of going with some. I mean, I think they've kind of painted. I mean, comic books in general have painted themselves in a corner. There's only so much you can do now. They've already, to me, they maximized everything with Infinity Gauntlet, Infinity Crusade. Like they couldn't go. You can't go much further than that. You're already
Right.
the whole universe is at stake every single, every 2 or 3 years, and it's like, yeah. To me, and I'm showing my biases because I read those, but
Yeah.
to
Well, I
me,
mean, I did too.
yeah,
So
same
yeah.
here, yeah. So it's just hard to kind of top it. And then if you're trying to chase to top, then you're gonna end up being at a place where you're saying, where it's kind of ridiculous and it's absurd. You're getting to a point where you're getting fatigue, like disaster fatigue or end of the world fatigue, because you can only have the world end or the universe end or the galaxy end or all the galaxies end so many times. I mean, it just doesn't have the same punch. But I'm curious as to why, like, these are comic book movies. So when I watch them, I don't have any expectations. I just expect them to be absurd and ridiculous, like based on the material. And so to me, the Marvel movies have been pretty successful in translating the source material with some reverence, I would say. I mean, I feel like, yeah, that's what I read in the comic book for the most part. Iron Man, like they updated it and made it more modernized, but it's still at the core Iron Man or Spider Man or whatever. Like they all kind of do it, but I think once you see that medium of that 2D plane of seeing these characters flipping around in pages, and you see it up on the big screen, that awe factor wears off after a while to a point where you do have this, like, yeah, you see Hulk and you see a whole bunch of other superheroes all at the same time, and the wow factor's not there anymore when you first saw them, on the screen. Iron Man being really special, because like, oh, it's really, you see one hero and it's focused on his story, his origin, and it is rooted in reality. I totally hear what you're saying there. But because of the material, they have no choice but to go into fantastical, weird, Doctor Strange like directions, because that's what they have to work. Like that's all they've got. Like Lord of the Rings does with their books, except for when they do depart, then that's a whole other. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess just listen to what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, but I guess for me, I just watch them because I'm just expecting to see the comic book on the big screen. But the wow factor just isn't there anymore. Like I'm used to it. We're all of us as moviegoers are now kind of expecting higher, like our eyes, attention to detail and stuff like that has now become more spoiled because we're just used to seeing it. Like we're expecting it, But now, how do you wow us, And I don't know what they do.
I mean, for me, I think I don't know that I agree with that actually, because if you look at Everything Everywhere All at Once, at its core level, is a superhero movie, but it was shot on a nothing budget. It's almost there is CG, but it's mostly to remove wires and and things like that. But from a standpoint of budget, I mean, it was pennies. It was practically shot for free compared to something like Endgame or even Wakanda Forever.
But here's the difference. Just let me chime in with this one thing.
Please.
The big difference is Everywhere All at Once. Like they just made the universe for that 90 minutes. That was I don't know if there was a comic book it was based on.
No, it's an original piece.
Yeah, so like they get to just there's no expectations going into the movie. You go in and you're just like you're staring at a black screen, and all of a sudden you see fantastical stuff. Whereas if you've already seen Endgame, you've seen all the other Marvel movies, and you know what to expect. It's a Marvel movie. Like they already have a reputation that they're living up to. That's the only thing. That's where I think Everywhere All at Once. And I can't.
We know.
Yeah, we know. That's where I think it succeeds because it has no expectations. Like it just like wowed you because you didn't know what you had. Like for me, when I went in, except for your favorable review, I went in not expecting anything. Like I knew that the actress is terrific, and and she can carry any movie. So, that's the only thing. Sorry, but you were saying more. You kind of on a path too.
Yeah. No. I guess I just I don't know. I think it would be fun. So okay. I mean, I know that Andor was kind of a miss for you, but one of the reasons why I thought Andor worked for me is it was not, I would say, a rejection of what Star Wars has become, but just kind of a return to a simpler, more focused story with smaller, with a smaller cast of characters who could grow and breathe a little bit more, and it was far less about the spectacle and much more about the stakes within this world, right? And part of that is the writing. I thought that the new movies were just horrible, not least of which was because the writing was amongst the worst I've ever seen in a Star Wars movie. And George Lucas wrote the prequels, for God's sake. So, it honestly, watching those movies gave me a new appreciation for the prequels, and I like those. I mean, they don't age particularly well. I've gone back and watched them, and I appreciate what he was aspiring to do, but it just didn't. I don't know. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. But I think it would be great to see a Marvel movie that bucked expectations, bucked trends, and just got really simple and focused. And wasn't trying to tie into a larger franchise, wasn't trying to up the stakes, wasn't trying to fit into this larger milieu. You know, and they're doing that a little bit on the TV shows.
Yeah,
But
I was gonna say because the TV shows have some of that stuff going on.
but
It
even
feels like.
still, you know, it's not. They can't escape the weight of the rest of the continuity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even in the TV shows, I mean, I think She-Hulk is the biggest exception. Although I don't know how they honestly fit She-Hulk into the continuity, given how meta and fourth wall breaking it is.
Yeah.
Because like Deadpool, the gag was always like, you know, because they always make jokes about it in the comic books. He's breaking the fourth wall, and everybody's going, "Who is he talking to?" Right? So the gag is he's breaking the fourth wall, but no one else realizes it. They just think he's, you know, mentally insane, right?
Uh-huh.
But with She-Hulk, they're obviously not doing that, especially given the season finale, right, where she just literally rewrites the ending of the show, and everybody is aware that she's done this, right?
So did you watch the few more episodes since we last talked?
No, it's the same amount of episodes. I mean, I've seen most of the show because of work.
Yeah. All right.
But you know, so I don't know how they fit that show into the rest of the continuity, and this is also the other problem, right? Is like it's gotten so big, it's hard to figure out what's going on. There's characters that I'm supposed to care about, but that I don't know, and why is Wong such an important character now? It's just like he's in everything. It's so bizarre. It's just hard to follow.
Yeah.
And
I mean, can't you? What about the whole point? I mean, She-Hulk existed in Marvel Comics universe too, and she did all that crazy stuff the same. And
I guess comics get a pass for me. You know, I don't know what it is. Yeah, I guess comics get a pass because they're comics. And maybe I'm just my own inherent biases are starting to show a little bit here. But yeah, I don't know. There's something different about the mediums, I think. And this is something that we can go into sort of the larger conversation, right? I mean, we talked about how Alan Moore actually requested that his name be taken off of the Watchmen movie because he said, I wrote Watchmen for comic books, right? He said, if I were writing a screenplay about this topic, it would have been completely different, right? And given the nature of the Marvel Cinematic Universe now, I get it. I totally understand that, right? I think referencing the comics is actually almost a weight around the shoulder of these movies now, around the neck of these movies now.
But that's where they come from, though. That's the thing. Like, you know, what else can you do? Because
well, do something different. Like, who cares? Just because you've got Iron Man doesn't mean you have to do the same comic book storylines. And obviously, Endgame isn't anymore. But you know, you don't. I think, and you know, Guillermo del Toro is a perfect example of this because he's done comic book movies. He did the second Blade movie. He did 2 Hellboy movies, and he he's talked about this in interviews. He loved the characters. I mean, he is a diehard Hellboy fan. I went to when I was in Guadalajara a couple of years ago. I was really fortunate to go to the Museo de Arte, where Guillermo del Toro had an exhibit of just his private collection of movie props and paraphernalia and stuff that he'd taken from his mansion and was showing on display as a just sort of a appreciation for where he came from. Right, this wasn't a traveling show; it only occurred in Guadalajara. And as you walk through the exhibit, I mean, the amount of like original inked pages of Hellboy, custom commissioned art from Mike Mignola. The guy is a huge Hellboy fan. Huge fan. But when he went to make the movie, he was like, I don't really, he was inspired by Seed of Destruction. He was inspired by some of the other short stories, the Hellboy short stories. But he wasn't a slave to them. He was like, I'm going to just branch out. I'm going to take this point as an inspiration point, and I'm going to make my own interpretation of Hellboy, right? And he did that with Mike Mignola's Blessing. And I just think that that's the right attitude. Like, be inspired by source material, but don't be bound by it. And I think that I think that the Marvel movies have kind of become, even though they're not telling the exact same stories, they've become bound to their comic origins.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
I guess it just becomes more subjective because.
Oh yeah, for
like
sure.
Yeah, because I mean Ultron. I'm thinking about Age of Ultron. How where did Ultron's origin story is different than in they've taken liberties here and there. But yeah, I think what you're pretty much saying is you just wish that they would go even further extreme.
Yeah, absolutely. Just make it their own. And I also feel like at this point, why do we need to keep pulling characters from the comic books? Like, at this point, in my opinion, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is its own entity that stands on its own.
Yeah, it's kind of that point now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Agent Coulson is a classic example of this. This is a character that was created in the movies for the movies, and now he's a character in the comic books. It went the other direction.
Yeah.
Right? And why not do that with bigger characters? Why not create an actual superhero that has no origins within the comic book pages? Because the people who are watching these movies aren't reading the comic books, for the most part. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of people who read the comic books and also see the movies, but I would argue that a majority of the MCU audience has not read the source material that they came from.
They probably haven't.
So why? Why do they need to shoehorn in Riri Williams as Ironheart into Wakanda Forever? Like, why don't you just create a new Wakandan superhero and make it a little bit more internal to that world? So anyway, I mean, I know I'm got off in a bit of a rant as I want to do. I just feel like they could do a lot more than they are doing because they become so hindered by the source material, so weirdly dependent on it, when the MCU has so far outstripped anywhere that the comic books are going to go.
So, for example, with Ironheart, I don't remember what her origin was in the comic books, but I'm assuming it was a derivative of Iron Man, right? Did Iron Man give her a scholarship or something?
Something along those lines. This is like, I'm so tired of teenagers. This is like, why are we giving teenagers all this? Anyway, whatever. I could go on a whole rant about how ridiculous comic book characters have gotten in terms of their origins these days. But yeah, she's like a student at MIT or someplace, and she's a super genius, and then Iron Man shows up sort of as a hologram and gives her all this tech, and then something along those lines. I don't know that much about Ironheart, so
I saw Amit and I went and saw Wakanda Forever over the weekend. So I found it refreshing that they didn't follow canon with how her origin story was, which was pretty much MCU is everything revolves around Tony Stark, and it was getting kind of annoying after a while. Spider-Man's origin, thanks to Tony Stark, I'm a superhero. I got so tired of that after a while. I know Warren Downey Jr. is a great actor, but come on, do we have to have everything revolve around him? Snapping fingers or everything revolved around Tony Stark. Fun movies, but it just got tired after a while. But yeah, with Wakanda Forever, they don't even mention Tony Stark. They don't say anything about it. They do say that she's Iron Man when she flies around the air, I think, at some point. But that's because of, it looks like Iron Man's flying around. They're doing that. So there's a little bit of an homage there.
Yeah.
But it was kind of cool that they didn't, at least that I saw watching the movie, that they didn't really speak to that at all. They said, "Oh, she's her own character,"
which is fine, which is the way it should be. Yeah.
Yeah. So in a way, they sort of for what you're asking, they kind of did that with Ironheart a little bit.
I guess I'm taking it up next to level. Just forget Ironheart. Let her stay in the comic books. Come up with an entirely new character, so you're not bound by any sort of canon from an entirely different medium, right? Entertainment.
We have those Hancock, for example, with Will Smith.
Sure.
I don't know how well it did, or if that's shouldn't even be a justification as to whether it's a good movie or not. I've never seen it, but we have plenty of those type of movies where Darkman, for example, back in the 90s.
Yeah, Sam Raimi classic. Yeah, Liam Neeson. Yeah.
There's plenty of we've always had them around. I think there's plenty of room to do both. I mean, sure, it'd be interesting to see Marvel MCU character that's specific to MCU, but all they're doing is just they're kind of already doing that anyway with some of the characters. Like I said, with Ironheart, she's kind of her own. She does have she borrows a little bit from Sword of Shield. You change her name, I don't think people would know or even care.
No, they wouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say though, Wakanda Forever. I mean, I'm gonna give you a mini review of this one. Man, talking about art imitating life or life imitating art, whatever. I mean, this is a rough, like, I don't know if you've read anything or if you've had to do anything for work about it yet.
Oh,
But
I know all about
what
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's a. At least when I was watching it, I found it to be a really heavy, somber movie. Like it's just a movie about grief and sadness. It's just it's a good movie. I actually am torn between which one I like better actually because I think the original is terrific on its own. It's fine. It's not my favorite Marvel movie, but I was just thinking about how I took myself out of the movie for a little bit, just thinking about the weight of losing your best actor. Boseman's passed away. He suffers from pancreatic cancer, and you've got to write a script. You've got to get all the team together, and you got to make a new movie without your main guy who's charismatic, carries the first one.
Yeah.
There's so much weight in this movie that there were moments where I was like, man, I mean, just the sheer, I would feel like, and again, I'm no idea, but the amount of pressure to come up with something like that and have any marginal level of success, I just applaud them for how well they put that movie together. I know there's some mixed reviews about it, but considering the challenges that Ryan Coogler had to deal with in that film,
yeah,
I am thoroughly impressed with that movie. And yeah, I mean, Letitia Wright is
she plays Shuri. Yeah,
Shuri. It's like she's young. She doesn't have the seasoned veteran type of stuff that Boseman has or Angela Bassett, but she's surrounded by really good, talented people around her that help carry the movie. But I feel bad for her. It's like, man, she's like this movie is unique to me. Out of all the Marvel movies, this is the most unique Marvel movie because of the grief that's around with this one. Like no other movie feels like this one. Like it's crazy. Like yeah, I don't know where I would put it as far as top Marvel movie or whatever, but yeah, but it definitely. I felt emotional chords a lot watching this movie, and it was just because of the reality of how they had to make this movie. I thought it was just fascinating, and I just nothing but kudos for how they put together something, because that could have been a complete disaster of a movie.
Sure. I think there was a lot of questions on what kind of movie it was going to be, right? Because hadn't the script been finished when Boseman died?
I wouldn't be surprised, because it felt to me like they had a whole, like even the first one, it felt to me like they were just going to pretty much like set up like a James Bond type of thing where Black Panther's going to go do a mission and do stuff all the time. That's how I interpret it. I don't know, but it felt to me like they had I felt like they could have just done cookie cutter type of movies with Boseman until he got really old and couldn't do the role anymore.
Sure,
that's what it felt like.
Sure.
But man, to just flip it around and just, okay, now we're gonna like put this young actress in the role of that, and like their moment, like Angela Bassett does an incredible job, like, but she always does, like she carries any scene. I always I think she's a terrific actress.
Yeah,
I think,
she is, without a doubt. I wish she picked better roles. I mean, she's on this really crappy TV 911 procedural, which is just hilariously bad. But no, Angela Bassett's a phenomenal actor.
Oh my gosh! And she shows her chops off, and
her
acting chops in this movie is
some
of her best stuff, I think. And I was like,
and
like I said, like I'm watching it because I don't get any emotional tugs watching these movies. But
I
was like, oh my gosh, this is insane! Like how I kept thinking about production, like man, how do they, So for that reason alone, I think this movie, if you're going to pick a Marvel movie to watch, this is completely, to me, outside of the realm of all the other ones that aren't cookie cutter, this is the one. But it's not perfect. It's not
Sure.
The Ironheart's actress, what's her name? I have it here, Dominique Thorne, I think.
That's right, Dominic Thorne, yeah.
Dominic Thorne, yeah. I mean,
Dominique Thorne, yeah.
Dominique, yeah. She's young too, just like Letitia Wright was. So you could tell there's some green with some of the acting, I think, a little bit.
Sure.
But they really, I don't know, with all the senior actors around them, it's just, I was thoroughly impressed with the movie. And I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting just another popcorn flick. So I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, right now, it's just like there's every showing is I'm certain sold out, and I just don't really want to go. And
yeah, I don't
maybe when it's been in theaters for like 6 months, and
or wait for streaming,
or maybe for streaming, yeah, maybe. But
there's one more thing to mention, and that is Namor's Namor's world.
Yeah,
Was again, I love. Yeah,
Talokan, yeah.
yeah. That was I love the way they did the take on that. It's
Yeah,
completely out of left field compared to what you'd normally expect for an Atlantis city. I
yeah,
loved what they did with it.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
so, Coogler and his team had to create Wakanda from scratch, and they created Namor's kingdom from scratch, with the umbrella of grief. Like I was like, man, how did they? I don't know how they pulled it off. I was so yeah. I know. I know it
yeah.
sounds like I'm being fanboyish. I'm not trying to be. I
No, no,
just
no. If you like
I just
something, it's not. I mean, like, I
yeah
think fanboyism is when you like something
blindly.
irrationally and
Yeah,
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 and angrily, right? You know?
yeah. No, this is just I just appreciate the production that went into this and
Yeah,
just how much the emotional heaviness to it.
yeah.
I felt you could see through it, and yeah, I was like I said, like if you want to see a movie production on a grand scale with a big budget and it still shows some heart, I can't think of another movie like this one. Especially in the Marvel universe, I think it'll always stand out. No other movie will touch it in the emotional chords that it
I don't
to
know.
me.
I know a lot of people who um, are almost proud of the fact that they cried when Tony Stark died. So
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. A lot of people were on the ride for Tony Stark.
yeah,
That's right. No,
yeah.
that one that's a fair comparison.
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
It didn't affect me at all. Like I was
it
like,
didn't do that to me either.
yeah, I was like, okay. I mean, like, I
Yeah,
knew this
it
was going
didn't
to
do that.
happen 2 seconds into the beginning of the movie.
You know what
Um,
though? Here's the difference though. It's like yes, he snapped his fingers but that's a movie character. Like the difference is this is a real
yeah,
like
no,
human
I know.
being,
Yeah, Chadwick,
you know,
and
and
it,
that's
yeah,
where
yeah, and the
yeah.
movie is almost an elegy for him, right? I mean,
Yes,
it's
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
it is just the movie's about grief, and I've never
yeah,
and grief is a complicated emotion to convey anyway.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was just like, I was when I walked out, I was like, wow, that was a really impressive, cool, like, and cooler stuff. Everything I've seen for the most part, I've always since Fruitvale Station, I think I always liked him as a director. I thought always does good stuff. So I knew that was going to be a good movie. Yeah, but this one might, I don't know. If it was me, I would be putting this one up. In my accolades of movies that he's made, I would
mm-hmm.
put this one at the very top because of
Really,
the challenges that he had to do to
yeah,
make this one.
yeah,
This is only my perception. I don't know,
yeah.
but
I
I was
mean,
impressed.
yeah. I think a lot of this. I mean, and that's the thing. Like everything that we've said tonight, there is none of it is right, none of it is wrong. It's
Yeah,
just our
yeah.
takeaways from it, right? I mean,
Hmm.
like it would be ridiculous for me to say that no, you're dumb for liking, or not you particularly, but anybody is dumb for liking these movies when
Well,
it's just
yeah,
like,
it's hard. So
yeah, it's just
yeah,
like, well, I mean, I'm clearly the one who, if I'm going to be so black and white about it, I'm clearly the one who's in the wrong because if people didn't like them, they wouldn't keep making them and making them the way they do, right?
mm,
So, I mean, there's no, I agree. I think from the standpoint, I think what you're saying from the standpoint of just the fact that the movie exists at all is an impressive feat that Coogler should
yeah,
be absolutely commended for.
yeah. I
Um,
mean,
and I agree. I thought that and I think we talked about this, moving Namor to Talokan instead of Atlantis, beyond just a pragmatic win, so they're not getting associations with any more associations than they have to with Aquaman. I just
mm,
think it's a far more interesting visual concept than Atlantis
yep,
is.
yeah,
Just in
yeah.
general. I mean, it just period.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there too. Yeah, I loved how they have him. He feels more rooted in the MCU because of that. And then they have the art, the kind of the layout, the art,
hmm
the way they design. I loved how they did it. Like I was just not expecting what they were gonna do, and I was thoroughly impressed.
Well, I mean, I think too the production design and the costuming and the makeup of Wakanda was all inspired by African cultures as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
grounding Talokan in the same way that Wakanda was grounded, I think you had to do it, right? If
Yeah,
I think it would have been a weird dichotomy if Atlantis was like this bizarre kind of otherworldly thing that wasn't grounded the
yeah,
same way that Wakanda was. For
yeah,
all of the CG and the pomp and stuff, there was
yeah.
so much thought put into just every aspect of the culture of Wakanda that
Yeah,
they almost had to do that
yeah.
with Talokan, right? Like they didn't have a choice.
Hmm.
My biggest complaint is I'm sorry, I can't get over how dumb Namor looks. It just I can't. I tried to do it. The
Yeah,
little wings on his booties, the
yeah,
the
that's
the the, the tidy whiteys, or I guess they're tidy greenies.
Tiny Greenies. Yeah, I mean
Elf
they went
ears.
complete.
I mean, it was just like talk about like abandon. You should have abandoned the source material. Like
Yeah, I mean
just
they really. The only thing they did was just change his origin, like
yeah, his
his place
cultural
of origin.
origins.
Yeah, his
Yeah,
cultural origin. Yeah. Other than that, though, nope. It was all 100%.
and I'm just
Like
I can't.
Fantastic Four #1. You know, like issue
Every
whatever.
time I look at him, I just it makes me laugh. And then they go into that flashback sequence where, as a child, he's wearing the same thing that he's wearing as an adult. And I'm like, oh no, to me,
That
it's
took you out of it.
so oh my god, I can't. Yeah, it's just Namor is like everything about the character is a cool concept, and the conflict with Wakanda and the sort of the undertones of imperialism and colonialism I
Hmm.
thought was really
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah.
But some of it gets lost because I can't stop laughing every time
Yeah.
I see that character on screen. I don't understand why they were so particular about Namor. Like why that character did they need to stick with the source material on? You know, if ever there was a character who should
Yeah.
not
He's
have been
pretty.
stuck with the source material, it should have been him.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean.
but anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, it's just the first trailer when you see him hovering there, and what's keeping
Mhm.
him levitated are those little booties with the little
Yeah.
miniature wings.
Yeah.
It was just like, wow, guys, this was not the direction I think you should have gone in that.
Yeah, you're not alone in that criticism. I was reading like online, just people that were criticizing. Like a lot of people didn't. It seemed to me like didn't like those little wings at all. Like it really took them out of it.
It
It's pretty
really
funny.
did. It really did. It just they look silly.
Yeah,
It
yeah, I
looks
can see that.
silly. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, the movie by far is not perfect. I can see why people think that it's silly. I didn't mind. Again, I didn't mind that. It's like okay, it's just what he looks like in Fantastic Four when he fights the Fantastic Four. Okay, whatever. But there were moments in the movie all over the place where it'll take you out of it a little bit. It's like it's not a perfect movie.
Well,
You know,
no,
that's
I mean,
for
there are
sure.
very few
Um,
movies that are perfect. I mean,
yeah. It's not everywhere all at once. Not your favorite
well,
movie of all time. It's not
even that
that.
movie's not perfect, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you know, there are
it's pretty good though.
beats. I mean, it's very good. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, like
yeah.
it's top 5 all time for me.
Yeah, I can't
So
think of anything. I can't think of anything off the top of my head with that movie where
it's just
you
little
know.
editing things where, again,
Oh,
because it was
see.
so low budget,
Yeah,
they couldn't hire enough extras to fill out a massive movie theater, and so
yeah.
they shot everything in medium closes so that they could take all the extras that they had and just circle, Michelle Yeoh and
Oh,
why do I
yeah.
always forget Key's Juan Key? I don't remember. I keep forgetting his full name. Anyway, um, but there's a couple of shots where, and this is only because I've seen the movie like 5 times at this point, and I'm
Hmm.
not really looking at the movie anymore. I'm looking at the edges to see all
Yep.
the little extras.
Yeah, yeah.
But sometimes when you do that, things get betrayed. There's
Yes,
this,
and it ruins it.
yeah, there's like one or
Ruin
two
it.
shots in the
Yeah.
movie theater where you can tell that the entire theater is empty except for the extras that are surrounding the main characters. And you're like,
Oh, darn.
oh, I wish I hadn't seen that. Because every time it goes to
Oh,
that shot, it's the only thing that I'm looking at in the scene.
and that takes you out of it for a second.
Yeah, for
That's a
just that one,
bummer.
yeah, that 1 second in a movie that I lose myself in every time. When I see
Hmm.
those empty seats, it takes me out for just a second, right?
Oh, well,
So,
there you go.
yeah, yeah. But, so even Everything Everywhere All at Once is not a perfect film, but it's
Mm.
damn close. Well, anyway, so
Ugh.
we've been going for almost an hour here, so why don't we
Yeah.
see what you've been up to? And
I mean, a lot of this has been me just talking back and forth with you, but I mean, I got it. I got a lot more smoother stuff
Mhm.
going on with this, so I'm happy with this. For the most part, there's maybe one more pose I might put right around here a little bit,
Mhm.
but I'm not
Mhm.
sure. But yeah, it's a little bit more smoother than it was, so I'm happy with that. And I think I'll move on and find another scene for next week.
Okay, great. Well, we'll wrap up there. You can catch us every Monday. We'll be back next week, I presume. I mean, Thanksgiving is Thursday and Friday, so I don't know if you're going to be out of town or what. I'll be around on Monday.
I'll be around as well.
Okay, so we'll do the stream as usual on Monday. You can check us out on Facebook. That's where we do any sort of regular updates about the show, or you can head over to our Patreon site at calamityjane.rocks. Why don't you consider signing up, helping us make this cartoon a reality? Also, jump over to Twitter, for as long as Twitter still exists, I guess. we do three tweet stories every week. We've got one coming up this week that I think we both find pretty. It kind of came out of nowhere, but we both ended up liking it a lot. So so take a look. It's at Jane Salamander is our Twitter handle. I think that's about all the social media stuff. Anyway, we'll wrap it up there. I'm losing the thread here, James. I'm drifting back into the West Coast again.
You're doing just fine. I think we're good. We can just sign off at this point.
All right. Well, at this point, stay safe out there. Yeah, stay safe out there, everybody, and we'll catch you on Monday. Good night.
Night.